Ladies and gentlemen, let me express my pleasure to have you, to be with you today, and I hope to be a very good speaker today. We always say that the manpower is a very crucial element in any organization, and COVID-19 actually is not like any crisis. It's one of the crises that started and continue till now and will exist for a while. And we should be well prepared for this pandemic, how to deal with it. And today I will talk about some points in brief about the impact of COVID-19 on workforce and the crisis when existed. Were we ready for it and deal with it, and how to change this crisis to an opportunity?
Gianni,
Yeah.
And we have to,
I was follow
because
in YouTube.
this
Okay.
crisis will stay
Can
for
you
a while
send me
with
the
us.
link?
So we should
Put
find
in
a way to
in
raise
YouTube,
capacity
put
buildings.
Port Training
And
Institute,
what we
and
talked
you can
about
see
in
and
the
do it.
past, we must
Okay.
implement it now.
Thank you.
And I will finalize my presentation with two things: to study case and then recommendations. Actually, if we want or not, we have to face it, that we are facing a global crisis that has an impact on social and economic life in all aspects. We have a lot of modifications and procedures that was implemented on the workforce this time ago. Actually, as we see in the graph from ILO, we have a negative impact on workforce. Some companies and institutions laid off laborers between 10% and 19%, and some companies reduced salaries between 15% and 40%. Industrial sector was affected by this crisis.
Gianni, you can see now in this screen.
Some other institutions and companies started to decrease or reduce the working hours, and assigned additional tasks to some other some other workforce, some other people to handle these missions. Some other organization reduced working hours. If we look to the graph and compare the fourth quarter of 2019 and the first and second quarter of 2020, we'll see how the labor working hours were reduced between the two timelines. If we look to this graph, if we look to the blue line, it will show the escalation of COVID-19 crisis, and the other two, orange and green line, they show how we switched to a remote working. Apparently, in the beginning, it was steady, no change, and when the crisis happened and escalated from March, the curve started to go up, and we should switch to remote working. That's why, as we are doing such our webinar today, This first period, we must prepare ourselves in IT infrastructures and capacity buildings. We must admit it that we were not well prepared in the time where the crisis happened. We always say that we must be prepared for any crisis, but let me say we were not all of us were prepared in maritime sector and shipping industry in general. So we found a reduction in operation and the planning in IT and logistics staff, and other delay in constructions and ports development projects. Also, we found a shortage in maintenance of port equipment spare parts because due to the reduction of workforce in the organizations and working hours. We found a failure in maintenance of port service level agreements because the workforce were not prepared for this crisis. Actually, a human resource, as we see on the slide, could be an assistant factor to change from negative points to power points, from weak points to power points. We have problems in supply chains. We have problems in the global economy, but we have positive points. People, humans. This is the crucial role we have to focus on. The workforce could be very crucial and important element that can help us to switch from such a crisis to an opportunity. If we move to the second slide, we can see this graph. Shows that workforce in all organizations, all levels, we must work. It's a must that we must work by the remote system and one window, but this time we must implement these systems. To implement this system, we must have a powerful IT infrastructure, and then we must assess the productivity. But actually, we will find some problems, and then we must go back for awareness. We must move, we must prepare, we must guide people, and that's what we are actually working on, and I will present it at the end of the presentation. We should do this from day one, and we were actually ready from day one because we were working on the online and e-learning system long time ago. And since the time of the crisis, we switched to e-learning training. Actually, if we focused on the human resources, we will come out with the desired outcomes. But we must know methodologies of training because it's changed since the crisis happened. So we have online training, and we have blended training for special courses. We have simulation and virtual reality training. And we have simulators, and this depends on the kind of courses we are teaching, we are training. If we look to this slide, training methodologies, we have online training. We need online lectures as a tool. We need the webinars, tutorials. We need exercises, videos, and assessment. This is not applicable for all courses, but it's only for theoretical training like management, logistics, finance, maritime, engineering. And this was a traditional way of training, and it almost has no precautions. But not all courses, like the online training, we have a blended training. It's a combination between a theoretical training and an e-learning training, and the practical training. And this require special numbers of trainees, and we need online lectures, labs. Then we have practical sessions and online training. We have a very modern simulator, and we are almost getting the new one, another new one. So we can do this with special precautions and measures. So by these precautions and measures that will be taken, we can do and handle an on-site training. And this is the methodology that should be applied in the meantime. This is a good indication that we are really working from 2019 in this direction. And we have conducted many meetings with the mid-ports, with the cooperation of Alexandria Authority and Damiata Authority. From 2019, we are talking about professional profiles with mid-port committees, what professions we should have in the upcoming years. And by the existence of COVID-19, it was proven that we are on the right way. I will present some of these professions. We must develop our career. We must develop our work, and anyone who wants to penetrate the market should do this. I'm talking about information technology, so Internet of Thinking, Internet of Things, robotics, cybersecurity, data analysis, cybersecurity developer and administrator. We need all of these professions and experts. All the fresh graduates, they should adapt themselves with a new trend. We needed this in the past, and we are an urgent need for these professions in the meantime. On the 11th of July, we will have a webinar on crisis management, safety and security. We have to have a real safety and security managers, how to disinfectant everything. Also, the energy is very important. We have two summits that talked about energy in 2019, about solar energy, about onshore power supply, about circular economy. All of these are very important professions. I confirm again that all fresh graduates and people who want to work should adapt themselves on these changes. Also supply chain, logistics, and multimodal transport. Now we hear about nearshoring consultants, vessel traffic expert, called supply chain, synchromodality expert. Now it's a must. We must go in this direction because this is what the market need. We must move, we must qualify ourselves in electronic management in ports, because as I said, Corona will exist for a while. So a lot of work will must change to electronic management, LNG ships. This is what IMO emphasize all time. Port city integration, very important issue. We must make it clear. Modern port management strategies, coal supply chains, governance in ports, ethics, and of course the impact of environmental IMO conventions. Very, very important courses and trainings that we must take the advantage now of them. I will give you an example. Egypt was in advance. 2 years ago, we were working on this platform with a consultant, very distinguished consultants all across the world. One of the outputs of this study is capacity building. It's already built on KSA, knowledge, skills, and attitude. And we get from this study with outcomes and recommendations. And we are working already on these recommendations in the Arab Academy and the Port Training Institute, that we must have the qualified staff that can apply this study. A very, very important study on all levels. Who can implement this study? You who will implement this study in the maritime sector. How to develop, how to maintain, how to marketing, how to market the technology, how to minimize the negative impacts. Actually, this plan depends on you, and what we all said before in other presentations, all are for this plan. Finally, let me state some recommendations which I believe is very important, and it pops up in my mind because everything is changed for managers, for decision makers. We all agree that the world before COVID-19 completely different from what after COVID-19. So managers, decision makers must monitor and manage crisis and making continuous correction and adopted and make some changes and amendments. Human resources, we must develop the human resources capabilities. Professions are quite different from before. IT, the information technology, and fourth industrial revolution already exist. We must adapt ourselves to this. We must develop our skills. Also, the remote working system, it's not new anymore. We trained ourselves on this system, and even COVID-19 disappeared, we'll still have to work on these systems to be ready and to find another new technologies. Thank you so much for your concern and listening to my presentation. this is the awareness we are moving through. And thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Akram, for time limitation. Very brief presentation. Thank you. Very specific and on spot. Dr. Akram was talking about the special case on training before COVID-19 and after COVID-19. Of course, all the world will change after COVID-19. And we find the online learning working very easy with us because we were working on this, preparing ourselves for this system before. That's why we always go to work to be ready for such crisis, such situations, by the idea that we have to put some regulations to know some weak points, because of course there will be weak points and negative points. We have to deal with it and change it to PowerPoint. He talked about some new training methods in training and learning, and he talked about some future professions, and that was discussed with the Midport Association across, this will be across the world. Dr. Akram represented a master plan which was offered from the academy to the Ministry of Transport to develop the training and to consider that one of the pillars and the most important pillar is to train and qualify the human resources in the maritime sector. Thank you, Dr. Akram, and let's go to Mrs. Anna. She is a training director in Valencia Foundation. She has a degree in law from University of Valencia, master in port management and intermodal transport, international master in strategic talent management and development from European University. She started her professional career in 1996 in customized transportation international as responsible for coordination of the maritime traffic and management of import and export. Welcome, Ms. Anna. I'm very happy to have you today, and please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this invitation to participate in this webinar. Thank you to Port Training Institute, Akram Solimar, Professor, and Ala Morsi. I'm very happy to hear with all of you. I hope all of you are well. And please confirm me that the presentation is in your screens and it's good sound and image. Okay, so nobody's saying nothing. No news is good news. Okay, so this morning I would like to share with you some ideas and some reflections about this situation. We are now in a technological revolution. We are totally dependent on technology, and we receive a lot of wave of knowledge around us. Every day we receive information and information. So we also have the opportunity to work in different countries, to work in different fields, and for that we need a different skill and competences. So we must to be willing to learn and unlearn continuously because we have to be leaders and we have to be prepared for that. And the question is, wow, but we are not preparing for this changing reality. So the speed of this change in the reality, it's very, very fast, because our sources of learning and the education system and the media are failing us. We don't see the other reality. So we call this reality VUCA. As you know, probably VUCA is a scenario, volatile, uncertainly complex and ambiguous. But something unexpected happens that makes that VUCA will be more deeper. Wow, that's Mr. Coronavirus. So that presents a different world. So the effects of different world is affecting everyone. No races, no religions, no cultures, no countries, no limits. So now we have a new game board that we have to play again. The butterfly effect is very strong, because you know something is affecting one country and the next country probably is starting to be the same effect. We have a new vision, new social vision, new political vision, and economic one. And we have to do a reflection about how is this world in Industry 4.0. So now we have a new working environment, new market needs, as Professor Soliman say, diverse and global teams. We work with a lot of people in different countries, need for specialized but multi-purpose personnel at the same time, greater complex of the tasks that we do, new process connected with suppliers and customers, traceability is required, transparency in our business, demand for continuous improvements, a competition because we are fighting every day, the globalization effects, the new business model that we have in other years, and of course the new models apply in our sector like alliance, the size of ships and so on. So this is the first reflection. We have to reinvent the management and the way that we manage people. This is my reflection. What kind of management is there in my company? I put the focus in earn money. I put the focus in the people. I put the focus in combine these things. So how do people look in these movements? Here you are, the phases of evolution in human resources. So it's a light with these pictures to do a reflection, what we want. We would like to beating on people and finding the engine of change in them, because we need generate a new knowledge and develop new skills. Because you know the species that survive are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most intelligent. Really, the career is winning by people or species that are prepared for the change. And now we have the opportunity, because the age of knowledge is a change of era. It's about transforming the intellectual capital in profitable finance capital. So here, this is my company, and Valencia Port Foundation is doing what are doing the Valencia Port. So we are applied research, innovation, and training center, and the service of the port logistic cluster. So we do a lot of activities for our cluster. Okay, we are an initiative of the Port Authority of Valencia. The Port Authority of Valencia, and the Port Valencia is the first port in the Mediterranean, it's the 5 in the world, and 5 in Europe, and 27 in the world. And we are very lucky because we have in our partenariat all of the logistics port community. And here you have some figures. We work in 60 countries. We have more than 250 projects. We have 10,700 hours, students, courses, and so on. But in this situation, in this scenario as BUCA, we have to put people back at the center of this equation, because the human factor continues to be a determinant. The factor is becoming more productive. So we have to prepare today the professionals for tomorrow, and these professionals' skill according to professionals' competences in this world, in this new world. So ports are enclaves that generate employment, you know. Ports as a competitiveness tool for companies. Here you are the picture of the Valencia port, and we do the economic impact study in 2018, and the impact of Valencia port on employment was 38,866 jobs. So are people who works around the port. And 10 million jobs in the European Union are linked to the logistics port sector. So, of course, this is important. It's important to know the size of the vessels. It's a limit or not. It's important to know the world routes in maritime traffic. It's important to know the alliances. It's important, the infrastructure. It's important, of course, to have cargo, to provide a good service, to have a legal framework, to have a good activity to be carried out. It's important to have a good technology. All of these are important. But the key to success is people. So we have to put again the focus on people. This is the reason, because in my department, we are 28 years as leading training provider in the sector, and we developed a lot of courses in different models, as Professor Soliman say, so in online, in blended, in presential, face-to-face, of course, nowadays with the restrictions in social distance and so on. And we manage a master degree in port management and intermodal transport. So this is 28th edition in Valencia, in Spain, and some international editions around the world. Of course, it's important to be very good partners at Port Training Institute and Arab Academy. And here you can see this cooperation, because it's very important to share the best practices. And here, but we have to revise our strategy and be innovators. And we implemented a lot of tools to do a training online programs. And then in a few weeks, we are start with the Port Training Institute and our academy, the crisis management in port. So this is first step to implement it, all of this innovation. So 2 years ago, the World Economic Forum said that now in 2020, nearly 5 million jobs are going to disappear, and probably disappear due to the industry 4.0, intelligent robotics and so on. And also say that around 2 million new jobs will be created. And for that new jobs, it's necessary to have a new skills. And the Forum Economics say, well, here you are. This is the new skills that you are going to need in 2020. Complex problem, critical thinking, creativity, people management, emotional intelligence, and so on. Of course, all of these are important. By my reflection, I believe that over the years, not so many jobs have been destroyed, not massively, and not so many new ones created due to Industry 4.0. But it's certainly that we realize, that we convince ourselves that we need the integrate digital skills. But the push has not come from Industry 4.0, not has the VUCA environment that we were talking about the new scenarios of our sector. The really push up was the COVID now, is the coronavirus, because only in 3 months, all of us at the same time has been working in online systems 100% at the same time. So we have reinvented ourselves. We develop new products. So we are now doing innovation. This is important, but it's a very good scenario to do a reflection and ask ourselves, could a machine do my job? What degree of automatization could my work incorporate? Because not is the future, is the reality, is now. I like to think that we in Valencia Por Foundation, we have doing our homework because we work for last years in different European projects. Here you are, and we work in identification of a new professional skill. So skillful, better or ports and skill. The objective was to study the competences of these employees, study the needs in the future, share the best practices, and so on. And of course, the MedPort Association at the JetMed project is the last one, and this project would be in 3 years to offer to our sector a new training courses and identify a new profiles. So here we are, the challenge of the port industry, competition, economy of scale, complex global economies, ACT, climate change, societal, healthy, safety, security, all of these things. So as Professor Soliman said, here we detect at this moment new professionals profiles, big data, cybersecurity, manager of synchromodality, coal supply chain, energy transition, offshore power supply manager, or circular economy manager. We follow working on that. And of course, we have a challenge developing the courses that can offer the solution to this new profile. So here you are, one of them: risk management, zero emissions, ballast water management, port city integration, global maritime alliances. So you have a lot of things. So we have to reflect. Sometimes in darkest moments, you can put the focus in the light. You can see the stars. So the message is very clear. The message is we need job offers, we need appropriate professional skills, and we need well-trained people. Because if you want a year of prosperity, grow rice. If you want 10 years of prosperity, grow trees. And if you want 100 years of prosperity, grow people. And this is my last message. So if you want grow, please cultivate people. And this is the things that in Valencia Port Foundation do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anna. Very, very interesting presentation. Another way of online training for Valencia Foundation. Ms. Anna talked about the impact of COVID-19 on Valencia ports, and one of the very important things is the existence of Valencia port in Valencia city and how it has an effect on the youth in Valencia. And this is a kind of port city integration. And this what will be the title of the next session of the webinars. The presentation has a lot of quotes and wisdom sayings and proverbs. Very, very good presentation. Thank you. And she talked about platforms that Valencia Foundation used it from a long time ago. I was there in last February, and we talked about this platform and how we'll start to work on it. And maybe you see we are Yeah, we are obligated to work now on this platform and develop our skills, and now we knew that we must change our way of thinking, and I think we succeed in this. She talked about the fourth industrial revolution, and thanks God that we are always in advance in this trend, because the last postponed Marlog was, we were talking about the fourth industrial revolution, but because of COVID-19 we have to postpone this conference. And finally she talked about very important thing, which is the research funded by the European associations, which focuses on training and qualification of human resources, and we are in cooperation with Valencia Foundation in this direction in ENI. This fund is for 3 years. We are trying to train a group of youth, Egyptian youth, and because of COVID-19, training will be online. A lot of funds are offered from Europe, in Egypt, Italy, Spain, and we will announce this soon. And one of the important ports cooperate with us is the Miata port. This time all the word is going to the e-learning. Thank you again, Mrs. Anna, and let me invite you for a break for 10 minutes, and then we will come back and continue our webinar. I think we finished talking about training after Dr. Akram Sulaiman and Mrs. Anna presentations. They really integrated themselves for a good presentations for e-learning and e-training. Thank you, and let's watch this short movie about activities that were held by the Port Training Institute, and then we'll continue our presentations. Thank you. تمام. In the name of Allah, we are coming back to continue our session. The next part is talking about experiments about e-learning using information technology. But before we start the third session, I would like to notify you a Google form that is distributed for any recommendations you want to, or any questions you want to ask. So please, on Google form, please write your questions. And I'd like to notify that the last two webinars or two sessions, they are uploaded on our website with the questions and answers on our website, www.ast.pti. Let's start with Professor Gianni Verselli. Is a professor of computer science from Polytechnical School, Genoa University, received a master's degree in electronic engineering and PhD in computer science. He's a member of IEEE Computer. He was one of the founders of the Artificial Intelligence and E-Learning Working Group of Italian Association for Artificial Intelligence. He's very professional, and apparently it's a combination between digitalization and e-learning. And this is the next presentation. And please, Professor Gianni, introduce yourself and go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your introduction, and thank you for the invitation from the part of Training Out Institute. And I will share my screen, and okay, let me know if you hear the screen. You look at the screen? You okay? I have no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So
it's clear there.
I will introduce very briefly some reflection about from the point of view of higher education, from the point of view, obviously, of the formal institution like my university. So we are living in the Middle Earth, in the sense of the Tolkien saga of the Lord of the Rings, because what is succeed that we had during the last 3 months a shift from residential learning and online learning to a new paradigm that some people they call it emergency remote teaching. It's a new word for both of you but also for me. What has been succeeded during this period? That as the World Economic Forum in April, at the end of April, stated, we had in 3 weeks during the March, from the end of February to the end of March, the lockdown and all the school, more than 1 billion students move from residential to online. And this, the education institution changed dramatically all the normal activities. And I can say that we were not prepared for this change, dramatic change. But the research on online learning has a long tradition. And if we look at the trends in educational technologies before the COVID, in the last 8 years, from 2012 to 2019, we had a lot of trends, positive trends, and new words that now we use normally, like mobile learning, flipped classroom, next generation learning management system, virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, and MOOCs, massive open online courses, among others. But if you look at the platforms, for example, one of the most famous platforms for learning, for collaborative learning, is Moodle. And Moodle, the Moodle cloud, the Moodle from not the installation of Moodle all around the world, but in the Moodle cloud, in March 2020, they registered new more than 50,000 new sites has been registered, and more than 50 million activities has been created only in April 2020. These figures are impressive, but is not the only figure. If we look at the first week of the lockdown in Europe, that means from March 15 to March 21, we had a huge numbers and a huge growth of download of video conferencing tools due to the COVID pandemic. Let us look, as Anna probably knows, it is very impressive that in Spain, in this week, the house party video conferencing tool has been downloaded more than 2,000 times than the normal, than the week before, than the normal download from the before the COVID pandemic. And what we succeed in Italy? In Italy, we had the lockdown at the 9th of March, and in 1 week, all the university, we have more or less 90 university in Italy, and the 94% of the courses goes online. And in 1 week, the 80% of the students will be enrolled in online lessons. This is a change, a shift that never occurred in the whole history of the educative institution in Italy. And the same fact occurred also for schools and any level of schools. And after this period, we can observe with a recent survey that has been published in the 15th of June. There is two effects of the pandemic. 3/4 of the Italian students thinks that digital transformation of higher education is now irreversible. We cannot do, we can back to the normal schools, and we think that the university has to change their structure to offer, for example, to offer from September 2020 a stable blended and open learning of courses and offer. So, what means that emergency remote teaching, what is occurred in March? Emergency remote teaching is a new form, has been a new form of online learning, but was not so effective. It was the pushing effect of the COVID, but we know that online education is a complex methodology. There are theories, models, standard evaluation criteria in order to have the online learning that must be of quality, quality of contents, quality of context, and so certainly quality of processes. If we look at these important things, we, in order to have such quality, we need a careful instructional design and planning. And obviously, during the COVID period, this careful design process has been totally absent. That, let's say, is not. I know that university changed very quick. They respond. They were responsive, but they were not prepared to change the educative institution from residential to online courses with no side effects. And so this is the first reflection. We experience a rising in this period of MOOCs, massive open online courses. For example, if we consider the March 2020, we have some figures. For example, Khan Academy, it is one, surely is not an historical university, is an online website, well-known online website, had 100 million visits only in average during the March 2020. So what does it mean? That massive open online courses now are a strategic asset, not only for lifelong learning and corporate training as in the past, and especially for lifelong, but now is an asset also for all kind of education. But MOOCs has some problem. One of the most important problem that has been reported by our students is that MOOCs needs more engagement to be effective. So, and the engagement is one of the key problems in the near future. And it's this is I don't think that you can see in detail this SWOT analysis. It is a very recent SWOT analysis from Tajuri. And but I will there is the link in the part of at the bottom of the slide. It's very strange that among the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats of the SWOT analysis, some keywords are repeated. For example, reputation. Reputation. Someone thinks that reputation of the institution is a point of strength, and some is a weakness. Some thinks that is an opportunity, but also a threat, a possible threat with respect to other. So this is using this analysis. So we had to reflect on how to design carefully our future online courses in order to be responsive and to avoid the problem and the challenges that COVID era put ourselves. For example, one of these possible paradigm shifts is a new term, the extended reality. Extended reality is used normally as an umbrella term for encompassing augmented reality and virtual reality and simulation in training and education. But is an umbrella term or a new paradigm shift? Let's say it is important that to state that normally when we have online courses that use one of these two extreme from the real reality, we can add some digital artifacts and to have augmented reality, and this is effective in some situation. For example, there is a well-known application in maintenance and repair training. But if we look at the more formal educational institution like university, it seems that simulation using total virtual reality looks better to have effective online courses. But anyway, we could, in effect, state after the COVID that we have to change to consider all, to embrace all this, the continuum from the real face-to-face situation to the totally digital situation of the virtual worlds in virtual reality. And why we have to shift in this direction? Because we have advantages on using immersive experience. There is a scientific evidence that the use of immersive experience double the level of visual attention. Our brain is more engaged if we use immersive experience with respect to the not immersive experience. And the memory retention in the using immersive experience is 70% more than with non-immersive experience. These are very impressive numbers, and we have to reflect on the use and the adoption of these in the perspective of our future works. Why we have to use this? Because there's nothing new. If we consider the theories of the related to education and pedagogical methodology, one of these, the embodied cognition theory, states very simply, it works from the 90s of the last century, that we live in three-dimensional and okay, video and sound are effective. Now we are using video and sound. We are experiencing very well a video conference, but we have to include motion and perception. We have to include some more to be engaged, to be have more engagement from the point of view of our students and our participants. And so far, the idea is to put the possibility of using, for example, in mobile learning, using our smartphone, the possibility of interacting using the IMU, the inertial measurement unit, that the motion of and the interaction given by the possibility of touch screen and motion to have a more effective training and learning. And this is a new perspective that we have. But there is another important theory that in support of this idea. There is the idea of the flow state. In psychology, this is very important that when action opportunities we have to balance between action opportunities and action capabilities. We must be in the narrow corridor that is the state of flow. And the state of flow is when we felt that our action with respect to our skills are in balance. And in this case, we felt not anxious and not worried or not boring. So this is very important to consider this fact when we design our online learning, and we choose which are the tools and the methods that will be applied in our online courses. So let me show my experience during the COVID. I had only one online course. And it was funny. That was my master courses on virtual reality and augmented reality and gamification. That is a long time that I do this work face to face in lab using virtual headset and practicing with my students with virtual, and we move online. We moved online dramatically, and the total, the complete course has been developed online. Anyway, we decided to distribute as soon as possible some very simple Google Cardboard to the students at home, and to start a gamified courses. Let's say we put gamification into the courses in a week, in a couple of in a very short time. I had to change totally the schedule of the lectures, and we had a good satisfaction and a good result, because all the 40 students, all my 40 students completed successfully in May 25 their duties. So, what were the lessons that we learned that I learned in this period? And this is my opinion, my obviously. Emergency remote teaching. That is the new word that some experts that more than me use to better clarify the concept of online learning during the COVID pandemic, has been perceived as necessary and positive by the students. This is very important. And this, the first reflection, this process is not more reversible. We are now in the middle of Earth, as I said before, and we have to move on. And the students that will be the future workers, maybe in your port, and as in my port, because we are talking of three important ports in the Mediterranean area. Students love engagement and situated during. So we have to put more gamification, more game-based learning methodologies in our instructional design. And in the medium-term long horizon, I can say that probably in the medium term, the lifelong learning differentiation between the lifelong learning and the higher education, so formal and informal learning, if you want, will collapse into a new unique model of online learning. And we have to be prepared for this new shift, and probably the use of extended reality will be one of the driver of in this paradigm shift. Thank you for your attention.
Very intelligent presentation. Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Actually, the presentation illustrated the same problem we had switching from our traditional way of learning to the challenge we face in COVID-19. And during that term, we start to shift from classroom training to online training. He said very important thing that the system we used in most of the universities, he called it emergency remote learning. It's real because it sounds like real thing happened. It's an emergency that we all followed, and and this is natural because we were not well prepared to switch and move to this virtual kind of learning. From the illustrated statistics on Moodle platform. By the way, this is the same platform we in the Arab Academy use it in teaching and education. It's called Moodle. Uh, in March, we, like the professor illustrated from, 50,000 registered in March. He talked also about emergency remote teaching that we are all that we are living now, and he pointed to a new system for a more sustainable system for long life learning, which is MOOC. And this is a new system that we have in new assets and the platform. We upload all materials on it. And he finally talked about that a lot of people use virtual reality and others use augmented reality, and he is trying to combine this together to come out with extended reality, which is videos and sounds used in learning and training. And I like the new expression he used, which is gamification. Gamification is uh, used in learning online, and this is a new, more efficient way in training and teaching. And this what typically happened in our universities, but and apparently this what happened all over the world. Thank you, Professor Jenny. Very interesting presentation. We have some questions, but we'll postpone it later at the end of the webinar after the next presentation. As we said before, webinar is blending industry and research together. And now let's listen to specialists in the industry and maritime sector with Captain Tariq Shaheen, the chairman of Alexandria Port Authority. He has a Bachelor of Naval Studies, Captain of High Sea Certificate, Master Degree in International Transport and Logistics. He received many advanced training courses in port management and operation from France. Furthermore, in shipping agencies, he worked in port management strategies from Japan. He worked as a head of the Central Administration Maritime Transport Sector and an advisor at the Egyptian Authority of Maritime Safety, and then chairman of the Miata Port Authority. Afterwards, he was appointed as a vice chairman for the Miata Port Authority for operation since June 2015. And then he was appointed as chairman of Alexandria Port Authority. Captain Tariq Shaheen, please. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this introduction. If we talk about Port Alexandria and the procedures that the Port Authority took to deal with the emerging coronavirus, Alexandria Port was in the one of the first ports that was concerned about the precautions and measures of protection against the danger of coronavirus from the arriving of ships and quarantine. And the moment the ship arrives in the outer anchor area, communicate wirelessly and ask the captain to report infected or suspected cases of the virus. Then, when the ship is anchoring, we start to take our procedures and measures. Also, for workers, we have publications and posters that have been made available to raise awareness of new coronavirus prevention methods issued by Ministry of Health and Population. We distributed and we located them in places where staff could gather, and published them on the authorities' website. We assured that they must wear their masks, gloves, and disinfectants. And we emphasize and we stress on the spacing system to be applied for piloting. We make sure that our pilots have their personal protection equipment when dealing with crews and ships. Uh, in the port, we have a lot of trucks coming out and coming in. We had very good precautions to assure uh, the limitation of the spread of coronavirus. As you see in the slide, it shows some precautions we have done in the Port Authority. We know that there is a reduction for workers. So during transportation, the bus is not with its full capacity. And this is what we've done. As you can see, I also let's emphasize and talk about precautions to deal with commercial ships. And I talked about it before. And this slide shows another precautions for commercial ships. Forward after that. All of this slide shows procedures involved in the port for disinfection, including buildings and roads. And how we perform sterilization and disinfection of public places, stores, yards, buildings, and marine units. On this slide, we can see procedures related to cruise ships, from conducting testing and testing all tourists and ship crews to ensure that no one is infected with the virus. Here we have measures taken to sterilizing cargoes and goods, disinfection and fumigation of goods before uploading by specialized companies and under the supervision of quarantine specialists in Alexandria Port. Inspect food and drinking water. We perform all food safety tests and biological tests, and taking samples of production, accessories, and goods. We uh, we emphasize the workforce, the protection of workforce, um, to be sure that they are following the instructions and the precautions measures for people who works, and also for equipment. The IMO instructions and guidelines issued by the China Water Transport Research Institute regarding how to tackle the new coronavirus, and it has been sent to the ministry and have been translated and published to the operating bodies and the navigation room, and has we were in a good communication with all the related bodies and operating bodies. We apply our measures on us and on every place related to the Alexandria port. Let me illustrate is whether Alexandria port affected by COVID-19. Of course, there is an impact, but a very small impact compared with other ports across the world. We saw how the pandemic affected and impacted other ports that could reach to 40%. But Alexandria port, as you can see, we didn't reach to 10%. We are less than that, plus or minus 8%. We are plus or minus 8%. What I illustrate in front of you, this is these numbers compared with the previous, the same period in the last year, and it shows that we are plus or minus 10% affected by the COVID-19. As I said before, the, the impact of COVID-19 on Alexandria port, as I said, we have a very tiny impact from COVID-19 on Alexandria port. It was not directly affected due to the corona, while the decline in training rates and ship movement is due to several other factors, which is a non-exploiting of berths in order to construct a multi-purpose station project. Performing a lot of maintenance work on the docks in the port, and this caused a reduction in number of ships coming to the port. Prime Minister's instruction to limit import also caused a reduction in the number of ships coming in. So this is other factors than COVID-19. It's only synchronized with coronavirus, but the special impact from corona is not exceeding what I mentioned before. all our workers, they have a good awareness against this pandemic. And from the time we heard about this pandemic, we have only 2 positive cases in the authority, in the port, and they are hospitalized. Thank you for listening, and I'm ready for any question. Thanks so much, Captain Tariq Shaheen, for your illustration and presentation. You talked about the international cooperation and IMO cooperation. You showed us the statistics and the comparison between 2019 and 2020, and how the port was minimizing the impact of COVID-19 and measures, precautions taken to avoid any negative impacts. And actually, Alexandria Port is going through a lot of projects. Thank you, Captain Tariq Shaheen. And let me open discussions and questions. If anyone has a question, please. Miss Anna, we have a question. Do you think all ports were affected in Corona crisis? The same impact happened all over the ports across the world, or they are different?
Well, as I concern, in different times, probably we start, or Italy start first, then Spain, and then America Latina. More or less, all ports are the same problems because we have a very good network around the world. I told personally with students, our students, they are director managers in ports, and the first experience that Valencia Port has was
Miss Anna, I'm sorry.
Yeah?
Would you repeat again, because there was a delay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I think the answer is yes. We have the same problems, but in a different times. So the things that Europe or Asia feel first, then this movement is from the left to the right, or to the right to the left, as you can see. But the effect that the coronavirus has in the port of Valencia, I check with all of my students. They are managers in ports of America Latina. Yes, an example. They now are talking about that the same effects that we start to feel 2 months ago. So the question is, yes, at the end we have the same problems. And of course, we try to share the same solutions because Port of Valencia put new procedures, start new regulations, the customs create a new procedures to the logistics operators, and now we are sharing with other countries and other ports.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anna. Question for Captain Tariq. Um, I would like to talk about the projects held in Alexandria Port, and it's not affected from the crisis, and about IT infrastructure in Alexandria Port. Let me say it. I didn't make any measures concerning the crisis because we were already uh, have a very strong IT infrastructure. And we have very good platform and IT infrastructure for um, shipping, and now we have a single window. And the new thing we have new thing not only for the crisis, but we did it a long time ago for trucks, 12,000 truck going inside the port. We have an automated ticketing, and everyone has his own password and can register online in advance to minimize the time of trafficking going in and out from the port. And thanks God that this system helped us in the time of the crisis. Let me tell you also that we have an advanced vision. This advanced vision was in cooperation with the Bank of Masr, which is to eliminate work with banks in this period through digitalizing methods, and the bank provided a lot of ATM machines to reduce the procedures related to banking. We also did unified receipt so that you you deal with one window. So agents can pay in one window for all bodies and parties, and then we can split the money and give everyone his equity. So actually, we were in advance before the crisis happened. and we intended to digitalize everything in the port through specialized companies to change everything to computer and digitalizing everything. So everything should be through electronic platforms to speed and accelerate business. So we are aiming to raise our classification among other ports. Now we are intending to cooperate with a computer company to make all the port community and the clients can do his business. Anyone can do his business through a single window, 100%. A very high-tech project that we are doing now, so we can cooperate together with all other ports in Egypt. And I think by the end of June, we will implement this project 100%. That's to make it short because I think I make it long. So thank you.
I can't hear.
Question for Professor Gianni. Professor, you talked about mixed learning and mock, and this is a new suggestion for learning, for e-learning and remote learning. What are challenges facing mixed learning, especially in this period? All in Egypt, we are in an assessment period and examinations of the end of the year. So would like to know some challenges for your suggestions and your study, and how can we assess trainers and trainees with this new system? We're listening, sir.
Okay. As far as I know, I feel that the use of the MOOC or online, the MOOC is now not so effective due to the fact that it is difficult to certificate to assess the conclusion of the courses that people follow in when the MOOC are organized in self-paced fashion. Self-paced is one of the most new technique in massive open online courses. Obviously, the main suggestion is to use, if it's possible, to have the continuous assessment mix within session-based MOOCs. That means that the pacing of the session is taken not by the pace of the learner, but from the pace that has been decided at the instructional level by the equipment that organizes the staff and the teacher. So in this case, I feel that the assessment, the final assessment, is better. Obviously, if we consider the fact that we have to experience the mixing of video conferencing and a platform, I suggested to use a careful mixing to avoid crashing, because we experience, for example, in Moodle, using Moodle together with Big Blue Button, we had experience of a crash, at least in the platform of the University of Genoa. And so we prefer to use during the final examination and the master thesis exam, the usage of mixing Microsoft Teams with Moodle platform and so on. From the point of view of the usage of mixed reality, it could be useful to send to promote the usage in some training path, but it depends on the type of assessment that you want to do. For example, I know only the experiment that we have conducted on the assessment, remote assessment of in the case of medical assessment at the medical school, but it's a very specific case.
Thank you, Professor. This your answer, your valuable answer, is what I expected. Thank you. I think later, as Professor said, we will do a remote assessment and continuous assessment. Assessment should be continuous process, and we must go for the rest of education and training, which is assessment of trainers. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. And the last question for Dr. Akram. What is the role of smart port in minimizing the economical crisis in maritime sector? Thank you. My good luck is that I am the last one to talk. Actually, I would like, before I answer the question, I'd like to thank all the speakers. And my sincere thanks for Captain Tari, because he was in Cairo and he come back very quickly to catch up with the webinar. I know how keen he is to be communicated with these webinars, and he's very keen about training issues and education issues. Very important numbers that he stated today, because Port Alexandria from a long time they are starting to shift to smart port. Port of Alexandria is in the center of all the Mediterranean ports, and they are all concerned about Alexandria port. So numbers are very important and the main factor to maintain the percentages. And Alexandria port is a main port in importing, and we are going with the schedules. Before we said we are trying, now I must say we must cope with all crises. Smart ports play a crucial role, like Port Alexandria Port. Everything changed to remote working now, and I think I'm sure that all other ports will go in the same trend. Damiata, Bursaid, doing the same work. So smart ports is something essential now. Thank you all again for attendees and speakers, and I re-emphasize that requalification of human resources are very, very important in any crisis. Thank you, Dr. Akram. Thank you so much, you all, our valuable speakers, from Dr. Akram Sulaiman to Mrs. Anna to Professor Gianni to Captain Tariq Shaheen. Very pleased to have you today, and very pleased to have all these participants. And let me, at the end of the workshop, illustrate some statistics and studies for participants in this webinar. We have from maritime sector 127 participants, from students education sector 3, from Arab countries 7, from Egyptian companies 20, from the Arab Academy 6, with total of 136 participants. 100 and this shows and reflects the concern of participants from these webinars that focus on awareness. And from Arab countries, we have 4 from Saudi Arabia, Jordan 1, Libya 1, Yemen 1, and with a total of 8, Iraq, we have 1 from Iraq, and with total of 8 participants. Next webinar will be titled as Port City Integration, and I think this is one of the most important webinars, which is the integration between port and the city. And we will show a group of valuable speakers from different countries to discuss all experiences and experiments from all ports across the world, and how they apply and implement the integration between port and city to encounter and face challenges after COVID-19. I'll see you again by the 1st of July, and we'll send you the brochure after we finish it. And also we have courses, online joint courses between our training institute and Valencia Port Foundation. A part in Alexandria, part of the course in Alexandria, and the other part will held in Valencia. a very, very important diploma, which is talking about crisis management in ports. We all need to manage the crisis in a professional way. Thank you all again. And I hope to see you again in the next webinar. You delighted us very much. You pleased us. Thank you. And without you, these webinars has no effect. Thank you, Dr. Akram, on behalf of Port Training Institute, and see you later. See you soon, inshallah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.